Title: The Silent Student Story. In a small, bustling high school, there was a student named Emily who sat quietly at the back of every class. Her eyes were always focused on her notebook. Her answers were written down, never spoken, and she rarely made eye contact with anyone, especially her teachers. To her peers, Emily was the quiet girl, a bit of an enigma. Her grades were excellent, but no one really knew her. She was like a shadow, fading into the background of school life. Ms. Harper, a new teacher fresh out of college, had been assigned to teach English in Emily's class. She was excited to start her first year, but she quickly noticed Emily's silence. While most of the other students eagerly participated in class discussions and group activities, Emily remained isolated, not participating in class or raising her hand. Ms. Harper tried calling on her a few times, but each time Emily just smiled faintly and shook her head, avoiding the question. Frustrated by her inability to connect with this student, Ms. Harper decided to take a different approach. Instead of calling on Emily in class, she began to find small, subtle ways to involve her. One day, during a group reading session, Ms. Harper asked Emily to work with a partner, pairing her with Rachel, who was known for her warmth and openness. At first, Emily hesitated, avoiding eye contact, but Rachel's gentle smile broke through her wall. Slowly, as the class worked through a short story together, Emily began to speak. Her voice was quiet, but Rachel listened intently, nodding as Emily shared her thoughts. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Over the following weeks, Ms. Harper continued to give Emily gentle encouragement, offering her opportunities to share her thoughts in one-on-one conversations after class. Emily's answers were always insightful and thoughtful, but the words that came so easily in private were still so hard to express in front of others. One afternoon, Ms. Harper asked Emily to stay after class, sensing there was more to her than what met the eye. As the classroom emptied, Ms. Harper sat down beside her. "Emily, you have such a unique perspective on everything we read. I notice that you always write the most beautiful essays. Why don't you share those ideas with the class?" Emily hesitated. Her hands twisted nervously, and her eyes flitted to the floor. I don't think anyone would listen." Ms. Harper's heart went out to her. She gently placed a hand on Emily's desk. "I think they would, Emily. You have a gift for storytelling. Sometimes it's not about being loud or the first to speak, but about sharing what's inside your heart. What you have to say is important." Emily took a deep breath. "I'm just afraid." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid that if I speak, no one will care. I'm scared I'll sound dumb, or that I'll be ignored." Ms. Harper smiled softly. "You don't sound dumb, Emily, and I promise you, we all care. You just have to take the first step, no matter how small." The next day, when Ms. Harper asked the class to share their thoughts on a poem they'd been reading, Emily surprised herself. She raised her hand, tentatively, almost shyly, and when Ms. Harper called on her, her voice wavered at first, but then Emily began to speak. Her words were quiet but powerful, her interpretation of the poem bringing a fresh insight that even Ms. Harper had not considered. The class grew silent, captivated by her words, and for the first time, Emily felt the warmth of being truly heard. Over time, Emily began to speak up more in class, though always with a quiet confidence that grew steadily. She was no longer the silent student in the back of the room. She had become a voice that others listened to. One day, near the end of the school year, Ms. Harper received a handwritten letter from Emily. The letter was short but heartfelt. "Thank you for not giving up on me. I've always had so much to say, but I didn't know how to say it. You helped me find my voice. I'll never forget that." Ms. Harper smiled as she read the note. She knew then that teaching was never just about the lessons from the textbook. It was about finding the strength to help a student discover themselves. Emily had found her voice, and that made all the difference.